Muted, Liz. You're muted. Okay, you're fixed.
Broadcasting now.
So we've got a couple of people who've come into the webinar, waiting just a minute or two for everyone to come in. We're so glad you're joining us here tonight as we advocate for Mother Earth. We're so grateful. Again, I'm Heidi. I'm the president of the local League of Women Voters. And but all this Anger to Action series for our environment is the hard work of our amazing environmental team led by Liz LaPlante, and also Regina Gomez is a integral part of that team, and too many other people for me, because I will forget someone. So I think that we can go ahead and get started. We are recording.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Heidi. Hi, my name is Elizabeth LaPlante. I am the co-chair of the League of Women Voters Arlington Heights Mount Prospect Environmental Committee. We have an amazing committee, and welcome to the second in a series of environmental anger to action. So we had 3 overall, but 2 of them have been environmentally based. Some of you might recall that a month ago, we did an environmental justice series with an Indigenous spokesperson, as well as we heard from a young activist that worked on the Flint, Michigan lead in drinking water. And we heard from another young activist who grew up on the south side of Chicago and has dealt with toxic substances in her air and water her entire life, and has become an amazingly eloquent spokeswoman for such legislation as we're going to talk tonight. So this is a very interesting webinar tonight. We're not just going to sit back and listen. We're actually going to ask you to roll up your proverbial sleeves and get to work. We are very excited to have a lifelong activist on tonight, Linc Cohen. He will be giving us a really brief background on CEJA, which is the Clean Energy and Jobs Act in Illinois. And then we were going to ask you to whip out your computer or whatever you have, and then we're going to do in real time. He's going to show us how to write letters, contact our representatives, and actually start taking action to support CEJA. So let me just say very quickly, the electrification of our society and moving to a completely renewable energy facade is the biggest challenge facing the United States with regard to climate change. If we do not figure out how to do this, we will not be able to stay below the UN Paris Climate Accord rise in the CO2 greenhouse gases limit. It will be absolutely impossible. So I cannot overstate how important tonight's presentation is for all of our futures. So with that, I'm going to just turn it to Heidi for just a second to talk logistics about questions, and then we'll get started.
So good evening. Again, I'm Heidi Graham, and I am the president of the League of Women Voters of Arlington Heights, Mount Prospect, and Buffalo Grove. Basically, we cover all of the communities that feed into High School District 214, but we look to serve anyone who needs to be served. We're happy to have with us here today, Patty Shore-Caden. She has interpreted for us in the past, and we are, as always, honored to have her here interpreting to make this program as accessible as we can possibly make it. If you haven't already voted, I will encourage you to please make sure you get out and vote. Early voting is happening now. And then, of course, November 3rd is Election Day. So very honored to have Linc Cohen here tonight to speak with us. A little more, less formal than some of our programs have been in the past. Generally speaking, we've always held all of our questions until the end. But tonight we will be taking those questions as you have them. So put them in the chat or put them in the Q&A, and we will make sure that they get answered at the appropriate time. If you need to see Patty as for the ASL interpreting, please make sure you pin her. We have been having a little difficulty with making sure that she is always seen, even when our presentation is being shared on screen, but she is recorded separately. And so we do, when we post this on YouTube later, we can make sure that that is available. So I will be going off screen now, so you have less people to look at, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Heidi. I will also be disappearing in 1 second. So just as a brief background, Linc retired after working in the steel mills and being an editor of a union newspaper for over 20 years. He is now the lead team leader of the Climate Reality Project Chicago chapter. He was trained by Al Gore. You might recall that Al Gore led this Climate Reality Project. He was the founder of it, and he went around and trained individuals. Linc was actually trained by him. He's a member of the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition Grassroots Committee, which is focused on passing an energy bill in Illinois. So with no more further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Linc, and I will also disappear. Take it away, Linc.
Okay, let me get the slides up. Bear with me for just a minute. Here we go. So the Clean Energy Jobs Act is a child of the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition. The coalition is a group behind the passage of the Future Energy Jobs Act, which has been in effect for 3 years. But CEJA was just a step in the right direction. CEJA, as we call it, is designed to take the next step toward a fossil-free economy in Illinois. So what would CEJA do? Well, you can get details by going to the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition website, and on the home page, if you scroll down, you'll start to see these icons. Click on each one of these icons, and you can get details on the thing that's titled underneath them. And those are pretty much what's in the bill. The next few slides are a brief summary. So the cost of generating electricity with solar panels and windmills have fallen to the point where they can compete with major fossil fuel sources. CEJA adds incentives for the transition, but it doesn't solve one big problem. In 2015, the International Monetary Fund estimated that total global fossil fuel subsidies in 2015 would amount to an eye-popping US dollar $5.3 trillion. China and the US were the biggest offenders, together clocking in at $3 trillion in subsidies. Those subsidies are still rolling in. The transportation sector is the second largest source of global emissions after electricity. In order to drastically reduce greenhouse gas emissions and prevent a climate disaster, it's critical to transition to cleaner transportation alternatives. In 2018, there were more than 460,000 electric buses worldwide, almost 100,000 more than in 2017. There are incentives in the bill for the transition to electric transportation. Many provisions in CEJA are about equity for communities that have suffered from the environmental injustice and those whose economy was based on the fossil fuel industry. that's an important part of CEJA because it brings in people who might have been left out for a long time, and it takes steps towards changing that. Training for new jobs is one way to help those communities. Solar installer is projected to be the fastest growing job in the US through 2026, and wind turbine service technician is second, according to US Bureau of Labor Statistics. CEJA has a number of provisions for getting this training into the places where it's really needed. Community solar is especially important in environmental justice communities where rooftops may not be feasible. And right now, the incentives for community solar have run out. So they were in CEJA, but there was a time limit on them. So CEJA restores that funding. In short, CEJA does these things. So I'm ready for any questions you have or any comments that people want to make, and then we're going to move into some action things. Any questions or comments? Okay, well, we're going to start the action by sending an email right now. So let's see. Okay, we have a question. Is the 2030 timeline doable? I think the answer is that the 2030 deadline is not doable without a commitment nationally. But CEJA puts Illinois on that route, on that road. In fact, it has to be done. There's no other way to keep the world from getting catastrophically influenced by climate change other than to stop burning fossil fuels. So it's not a question of whether it's realistic. It's a question of how fast can we get moving in the right direction. And this is what our state can do.
This is a great question from Anne, and that is, how exactly is the fossil fuel industry subsidized? Is it low-cost lease of government land? Is it breaks for cost of coal-fired electricity? Great question, Anne.
It is a great question, and those are some of the ways, but oh boy, there goes the old man memory. The allowance, what's the name of the depletion, the oil depletion allowance is a huge way that the oil industry is subsidized. And you can look that up. I don't know the exact details, but it really just gives money to oil companies for taking oil out of the ground.
Karen has this question, and she says, lobbyists are so strong in the oil and gas industry. Are there people advocating for renewable energy to our elected representatives? I know that the League of Women Voters lobbies for things like CEJA and other things, but are there professional lobbyists?
Yes, there are. In fact, the Clean Jobs Coalition, the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition, has a professional lobbyist in Springfield who does lobbying and also advises us. I'm on the grassroots committee, and that's what we do, is get average people to do the lobbying. And that's a little bit of what we're going to do tonight. Usually legislation that is controversial doesn't pass without a grassroots movement. And so professional lobbyists are important, but getting people to participate in advocating for a law is also essential.
Why do you think that grassroots lobbying, and this is nobody's question but mine, Heidi's, but why do you think that grassroots lobbying is so important? How do we make people understand that their legislators absolutely do listen to them?
Well, that is, I mean, there's history behind that. If we look at most recently, the changes that have been made in many states and many municipalities since in terms of trying to deal with police abuse of their power have been response to people getting out into the street and peacefully demonstrating. The civil rights movement changed the laws of the nation in very, very significant ways, and that was definitely grassroots lobbying. There are other examples, I think, when we do grassroots lobbying, our legislators tell us all the time that what makes the most difference for them in getting legislation passed that they want to get passed is to have people contacting their legislators. That's what our legislators tell us.
Wendy has another great question. And what are your thoughts about natural gas? Is it a good interim source of energy while we get solar and wind energy approved?
I don't think it's a good source because it does emit fossil fuels, and in extracting it, natural gas is methane. And methane is many, many, many more times more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. And there's always leakage when you extract natural gas. So it's not a good solution. It may be necessary in the very short term, but what we need to do is move headlong in a way that rivals or even beats the efforts that were put forth to win World War II.
So, Linc, this is Liz. I just want to add something you said about natural gas.
Yeah.
So, unbeknownst to many people, under Obama, there were rules and regulations put in, written by some of my colleagues at EPA, to actually capture the methane that was coming out of the natural gas fracking industry, and under this administration, those rules were rescinded. So in fact, there is no capture now of methane as it is released. So it's even more of an issue. But you are right that it might have to be the transition energy source to get to a renewable, albeit how bad it is. If we can reinstitute those rules and regulations, it will go a long way to methane capture.
That's good news. There's also controversially the use of nuclear generated energy as a transition. There are nuclear power plants in Illinois, and CEJA calls for phasing them out by 2050. So the idea of having a fossil-free generating system by 2030 or 2035 includes nuclear plants, but entirely renewable energy by 2050 is the goal set by CEJA.
Barb has this question: how do subsidies compare for renewable energy and fossil fuels?
Say that again, Heidi. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. So how do, what are the comparisons between subsidies for renewable energy and fossil fuels? I think, as I understand this question from Barb, is that are we subsidizing renewable energy? And if so, what's the comparison, like percentage wise or otherwise?
You know, I've seen a graph of that, and it's two bars, and one of the bars is like 6 inches tall, and the other one is like 1/4 of an inch tall. And I think that's kind of the ratio that we're talking about. There is subsidies for renewables, but it's very small. And if we could reverse that, we could move a lot faster. But if we could just remove the subsidies for oil and coal, we would be making progress at a good rate.
I have another question of my own, going back to the nuclear energy. I tend to be very confused about nuclear energy because my understanding is that it's clean. So why is nuclear energy, why do we want to phase that out? What do I not understand?
Well, it's clean in the sense that it doesn't emit pollution as it's being used, but spent nuclear fuel is highly radioactive. And so far, we don't have a good way to deal with that. And we may never have a good way to deal with that. That's one problem. The other problem is that when there is an accident, we've seen entire regions get wiped out because in Russia and in Japan, there's been huge problems with the accidents that befell nuclear power plants. So it's a risky way and a very inefficient way to boil water.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So right now, it does not look like we have any more open questions either in chat or in the Q&A.
Okay.
So if we want to, maybe people will come up with some other questions as we go ahead and work on our actual advocacy piece.
Okay. So, the first thing that we're going to ask you to do tonight is to send an email to your state representative and state senator and Governor Pritzker. And this is all done pretty much in an automated fashion. So if you go to the website that's on this slide, and that's also in the chat, right, Heidi?
Yes, I have put it in the chat.
Okay, so you can go to the chat and click on it, go to that site, you fill out the form, and you can modify or rewrite the message, but it's not really important to do so. The goal of this exercise here is numbers. So we want state representatives and state senators and the governor to see lots and lots of these coming in. We've been doing this for about a month and a half. And so it's a fill in a couple of boxes, and it will go, if you give them your address, it will go to your legislators and it will go to the governor. So I would like for people to do that right now and write those emails, send those emails, and we'll give you a couple minutes to do it. In the meantime, I think there's probably some questions, right?
All right, we've got Barb has already done that for us. Wendy asks, are there any local initiatives that we should advocate for in our community? And I believe that this is something that if Linc can't answer, maybe Liz can come in and answer.
I think Liz should, but let me just say that there are communities in Illinois, Evanston being one really good examples of cities that have taken it on themselves to become fossil-free electrical users. So there's lots and lots of things that communities are doing. Lots of communities have green teams and green commissions. And so, yes, there are things, but Liz, if you have some specifics, that would be great.
Yeah, and as you say, there are communities actually that have been doing this for over 15 or 20 years. In Canada, especially, some of these communities have been basically fuel free for about 10 years. And what they do is they actually go through and do an inventory of every single kind of energy output. And then I see how they can transform to a renewable or much lower emission. So everything from putting in LED lights to doing electrical buses running on biofuels to asking of low emissions or no emission idling in the town, to doing more green infrastructure, which we'll talk about in a second, which can do carbon capture by giving incentives to local housing homeowners to actually, there's tax breaks to actually put solar panels up, energy tax breaks or energy incentives. There is so much communities can do, and you can actually transform pretty quickly if the will of the people is there. In Arlington Heights and Mount Prospect, I know that some inroads have been made. We do have a rising young leader member of the League of Women Voters who is the youth commissioner now on the Enviro Commission in Arlington Heights. And I do think that she is going to be putting forth some specific proposals. So a lot that actually can be done for a pretty de minimis amount of costs, but they really need to hear from the citizenry that that's what we want. And I can actually, Heidi, I can post some community, green sustainability electrification plans on the site. Can dig those up.
Right. And I will say already got people who have come in and said that Karen and Barb and Wendy, they have already said that they have already been able to quickly take this action. And Karen has said that she also posted on Facebook. And I really encourage everyone to share this on Facebook that they're doing this, share it on Instagram, share it on Twitter. Get out your phones, text 10 friends or call 10 friends. Whenever you take action, always think to yourself, what 10 friends can I now tell? So tell 10 friends, and that will really increase your impact. One of the things in terms of locally, I have a question, and that is there such a thing as electric snow plows? Do they exist?
There are electric trucks being manufactured. I think any truck could be converted into a snowplow.
But like, the big, huge ones that the cities use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I understand. I'm saying there's full-size trucks. There's buses.
That's true.
So I don't know if there is a manufacturer turning them out right now, but it certainly is clearly feasible.
Mm-hmm. One of the things my husband recently pointed out is that, all of our communities employ or have maintenance crews for taking care of public land. And most of them are using gas-powered leaf blowers.
Yes.
And those gas-powered leaf blowers in one day, what were the statistics?
It's actually 1 hour, Heidi. In 1 hour, they produce as much CO2 as 55 cars.
Mm-hmm. So that, I think, seems to me a pretty easy switch.
Yeah, there are definitely electric ones.
There are electric ones that work amazingly well. And it seems to me that it would also save money. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Heidi, it's one of the major incentives and initiatives that are happening now. I think you posted in your newsletter, Go Green Wilmette is having, I think it's on November 11th or 12th, meeting. They usually hold them, I don't know where they're holding, they're probably virtual now, on this exact topic. Is the problem with the combustible lawn equipment. It is a huge issue, as you point out. It's also low-hanging fruit because there are electrical equipment substitutions. So, and there are a lot of co-benefits to doing that. I think that that's another thing that we should talk to our municipalities about. The other aspect of that is everyone's working at home now, and the noise level of the combustion equipment is just really high. So I think that's an excellent point. And, please do point out in the newsletter where this meeting will happen. I urge you guys to attend it.
And then here we've got information about the virtual lobby day. One of the things I want to, as somebody who is new to lobbying, I have only been doing this in the last 2 years. The first time, 3 years maybe. The first time I lobbied was for the passage of the Equal Rights Amendment here in Illinois. And what I was told by legislators in the know is that the action by League of Women Voters, lobbyists, changed no fewer than 10 no votes to yes votes on the Equal Rights Amendment. So I would encourage you to join our league if you are not already a member, because we work in coalition and in concert with amazing people like Linc, like the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition. We have amazing members like Liz who work tirelessly to make sure that we're doing all of these things, advocating. And that is something we definitely could use more members who are willing to go to meetings, which is a lot easier right now because it's virtual, and speak up and speak on behalf of League.
This virtual lobby day is an excellent way to get your feet wet with grassroots lobbying because you don't have 3 hours down to Springfield and 3 hours back from Springfield. You don't have to walk around chasing these legislators as they go about their day's work. All you have to do is set aside a couple of hours on November 12th, and you will get a chance to go face to face with your state legislator and with your state representative and with your state senator, and show your support for CEJA. And if you want to, tell them about why you support it. It's a really great opportunity to make a difference. And we've got people in virtually every representative district in the state that are going to set up meetings with every representative on that day. And you'll get a chance if you sign up to do that, to talk to your legislators. We also, as the slide says, there'll be a rally. It's only from noon to 12:30. We've changed it. So that will be another half hour that you will be more than welcome, but it's not the most important part of the day. The most important part of the day is those meetings with your representatives. So if you would like to sign up for Lobby Day, and then you'll start getting information about when and where you're, not where, but when your meeting with your state legislators will be, and it'll give you a chance to do it. If it turns out you can't, you haven't done any harm. So I'd like to give you a few minutes right now to go to this URL. And again, it's another form that identifies who your representatives are, and you can sign up for Virtual Lobby Day. Any more questions or discussion?
That Virtual Lobby Day, so the times that you, first of all, the election happens November 3rd, but the handover, so for instance, if our representative is replaced by a new representative, we'd still be, they would not have had the handoff yet, correct?
That's correct. This is an effort to get a vote this fall or this winter on CEJA. And that means the current legislators who are well-versed in many of them in the bill, they wouldn't have to start off fresh. And the urgency of getting this bill passed is getting critical. So yes, it would be the old, not the old, but the current legislators that would be voting if there's going to be a veto session in 3 days in November and 3 days in early December, and then the new legislators take their seat in January, but the last couple of 3 or 4 days before they take their seat, there's a lame duck session. And so the coalition is pointing on getting action during the veto session and getting final passage during the veto session, or at worst during the lame duck session. So that's the goal right now. If we don't get it passed, we'll keep pushing in the new legislature. But this lobby day is focused on CEJA now.
Is there a way that if we have, so our league is very active in our community, especially with our students in both District 214, not both, all District 214, District 25, District 21. We have incredibly strong partnerships with them and the students there. And I know that a lot of students would like to be part of such a lobby day, but they have school. Is there a way to request times? Or is it going to be, I mean, I understand the legislators, you know, they have to be in other meetings as well, but if we have a couple of different times that might work for students, could we make that request?
Certainly. Once you sign up, and students should definitely sign up. Once the students sign up, and they'll get connected with a team captain, and they can advocate for that with the team captain. But they can also talk to their teachers, because it seems to me like an opportunity to attend school but take a little time off to talk to a state legislator is a terrific educational experience. And I can't imagine many teachers that would say no to giving the two students time to do that. Do we have an official system for advocating for that with the school districts? The coalition does not, but we certainly more than welcome young people to come to the lobby day and to participate.
Lynn has asked if you have to be a registered lobbyist to participate in the virtual lobby day.
Absolutely not. This is grassroots lobbying. Every resident of Illinois has the right to speak to the legislators that represent them.
And I would like to add to that I have found in doing this work over the last several years that not only do we have the right to speak with our legislators, but pretty much they like to hear from their constituents. I will say that lobbying someone who isn't your direct legislator typically doesn't do a lot of good. You need to lobby your actual legislator. Those are the ones because that's who you vote for. Time and time again, legislators will tell me that if they hear from people who aren't in their actual district, they almost wholeheartedly ignore it. And I think it's important for people to understand that. Karen asked, what does it mean on the form recruitment?
Is that followed by that list?
I'm not sure. Karen, I might be able to unmute you so that you can answer. No, I don't think I can.
I think we're talking about.
I think what it's asking, like, if they want to become a volunteer for the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition in terms of being social media team. Recruitment probably means recruiting other volunteers, right?
That's very likely. I haven't looked at the form lately. There is a list of organizations that they're asking you to check which organization brought you to this site. So I'm not sure if that's what they're talking about or if they're talking about asking for volunteers, but either way, I think it's one of those two things.
I will say as 100% our League of Women Voters, we are 100% a volunteer organization here at the local level. In fact, in the state of Illinois, there are only currently one person who's paid. We did have 3 people who were paid, but 2 of those people have left the organizations for other opportunities, and those positions are unfilled at this point. So we're supposed to have 3 paid people, but there are very few paid people in the League of Women Voters. But here locally, most of the money that we collect for membership actually gets paid out to our state and our national leagues. So we really do rely this grassroots. We need volunteers, we need members, we need people willing to donate time and money. And I'm sure that's the same with the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition.
Absolutely. And with the Climate Reality Project Chicago chapter, where I'm a member.
And we have a lot of crossover with the Climate Reality Project. I know we work very closely with them. Regina Gomez is on our environmental team, and she has done many joint projects with our league. And I do believe that these coalitions and these partnerships have made us so much more effective when we join together in our work. We're stronger.
No question about it. Our relationship with the League of Women Voters is extremely valuable. And Regina, who's a member of both organizations, has been instrumental in tying the two together. But I think nationally we have a relationship as well. So
yeah.
It's absolutely essential that these kind of coalitions exist and get built and get strengthened.
Well, it looks like I don't see any more questions in our Q&A or in our chat. And it looks like everybody who's here. Oh, here we go. Is there a common goal connected with Illinois Clean Jobs and Illinois PIRG? I don't know that I know what PIRG is. Public
Interest Research Group.
Okay, that's from Nicole. And I will say Nicole is currently, if you haven't signed her petition, she is currently running for local office. And one of the biggest ways people can make change is to run for local office. Village, library, park district, all of those, park district and village, have probably a huge impact on the environment, and we need local people to run. Currently, the mayor of Arlington Heights is running unopposed, and really it is contested elections that make our democracy the most strong. But now, and Wendy Dunnington is also running, so make sure you sign their petition so that they can get on the ballot. But now I'm going to let you answer that question about Illinois Clean Jobs and Illinois PIRG. Sorry about that tangent.
I'm not sure that ILPIRG is part of the coalition. There's a list of coalition members on the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition website. You can look there and see if that group is a member of the coalition. I don't know that off the top of my head. So I do have one more piece of action for folks to do a little bit in the future, but we can finish with the questions if there are more.
Right now, no more.
Okay. All right. So let's go to the next thing. This particular URL will allow you to do a call to the governor's office where you can leave a message for the governor. We don't want to do that tonight. November 10th is the day that the coalition is, it's a couple of days ahead of the lobby day. And so if you would be interested in participating in a call-in day, write this down or copy it. Heidi, you're putting it in the chat, right? So you can copy that out of the chat. And
can you copy and paste it from your presentation into the chat? I'm a little afraid that if I try to do it, I'm going to misspell something. I'm the queen of the typo, as the members who are on this will tell you.
Okay. I think it was in there when I first put it in.
What is it?
At the very top of the chat, isn't it there?
Oh, yes, I did. I'm so sorry. I've got it.
Okay. All right. So anyway, November 10th is call-in day to the governor, and we'd be delighted if some of you could make that call and get friends and family to make that call. Right now, Governor Pritzker is crucial, his support, his backing for an energy bill that has the provisions of CEJA is one of the most important things we can get right now. So those calls are very important.
Madeline has a great question. And what are the economic arguments against CEJA?
Whoops. I just, wait a minute. Sorry. What are the arguments against CEJA? The arguments against CEJA are, I think the biggest thing is that they're saying that it would raise rates, which is probably not true. The bill has some guarantees that rates would actually go down. One of the reasons for that is that we're overpaying for what's called capacity capabilities. That is, we pay a electrical provider to hold in reserve the capacity to provide extra electricity on the peak days, the really hot days in summer, the really cold days in winter, where more than the normal amount of electricity is needed. We by billions of dollars, actually, or hundreds of billions of dollars, we're overpaying for that. So some of the savings would come from redoing that, which CEJA does. But a lot of the arguments, I think, are specious. You know, they talk about CEJA putting people out of work. Well, you know, we can no longer depend on people working in the fossil fuel industry to make a living, because that is doing such damage to our environment and to our world. We have to make the transition, and CEJA makes the transition in a way that considers those job losses and does an amazing amount of things to mitigate those job losses and to get people moved into clean energy jobs. So I think you'd have to look somewhere else for the opposition. I'm not well versed in it.
It looks like that is pretty much all of our questions, and we're almost at the end of our time. I was going to put just quickly, if I could figure it out, into the Q&A. Let's see if I can get this. Well, I will put it on our website. Village and school district addresses is on our website. If you go to the Anger to Action folder on our website at www.lwvah.org, you should be able to find that information. But any last words, Linc or Liz?
Yeah, hi, it's Liz again, and thank you, Linc. That was amazing. I hope everyone takes advantage of the links and the information that Linc gave. And just heads up, we are going to continue these series of Anger to Action webinars if folks are interested. I've had a couple folks ask if we could do some kind of series on the Great Lakes, perhaps Lake Michigan, if folks are interested. There's all sorts of interesting, I don't mean that in a good way, issues that are arising from our drinking water. And the other buzzword that has been around now for 10 years is green infrastructure. Type that, put that word away. That is going to be the word of the next probably 5 years, green infrastructure. It's going to be all about water conservation. And green infrastructure is a big way to do it, and every community will have to be doing green infrastructure. So I think it'd be interesting to do a webinar on what is green infrastructure, how you can do it yourself at your house, where you can get some grant money to do that. We do have some leads. We also do have, we are going to be getting free native plants and, seeds that you can plant to help start your own green infrastructure project through the League of Women Voters and another grant that we received. So, and the final thing is microplastics is also a buzzword, and each and every one of us is responsible for putting tiny little bits of plastic into our fish in the environment. And it's actually raining plastic now, if you couldn't already sleep at night. So we are thinking that that might be an interesting topic for the next webinar, but we're very interested to hear if that's interesting to folks or if they want another topic. But that's all we had. And thank you so much for attending. Thank you again, Linc, and thank you, Heidi, for facilitating so well. And go vote.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed the event very much, and I hope everybody has something they can do that they really want to do.
Thank you, Linc. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Linc. Emily, your host, you'll have to, oh, here we go. Thank you so much.
That
Have a
was great.
night.
That was great. Take care.
Bye-bye.